and we've mentioned it before, AEW and these tickets, they're not selling. We've been talking about it for the past year, and there's these half-empty arenas, even on like the lower bowl portion of arenas that Tony Khan has booked. But now in 2024, things are almost pretty much hitting a new low. So Dynamite on Wednesday in Savannah, Georgia, yesterday as we record this, brought in a little under 2,200. And last time they were in Savannah, Georgia, they made 3,700, which for 2022 is actually quite a bad number as well. I watched Dynamite, and man, you could hear like individual people talking.
So you watched the show Wednesday night?
I watched it today while I was writing the script. Had it on the background. I was watching it for the most part, and yeah, it's like the atmosphere.
What do you think of it?
Well, I'll bring up what I thought of it in a minute. I'll stick with the numbers so far. I want to mention a couple more to you. AEW Collision February 10th in Hendersonville. Is that Nevada? Hendersonville? There's a few Henderson. NV.
Henderson, Nevada.
Yeah.
NV.
So it has sold, and keep in mind it's February 10th, 928 tickets. That's a Collision taping. AEW Dynamite February 21st. Tulsa, Oklahoma has currently sold 1,700. Excuse me. Described by Dave Meltzer himself as WCW 2000 levels. But that isn't true, because I've looked at WCW 2000 attendance, and they're way higher than this. They're averaging more like 4,000 or 5,000 for TV tapings around this time. Even New Japan, who's having a show in April in Chicago, has sold 4,500 tickets. So, like, AEW is doing worse than, like, New Japan, and New Japan isn't hot at the moment. Having said that, to bring it back a bit, a Collision taping in Vancouver in May has sold over 5,000 tickets, and AEW Revolution, that is going to be featuring Sting's retirement on March 3rd, is sold out at around 15,400. So for the pay-per-views and the big shows, they're still selling a decent amount of tickets. But for these TV tapings, there's just nothing going on here, and it's getting worse.
And?
Well, how are they turning people off going? Because I mean, for the most part, the TV ratings are steady.
It's just wrestling. If you just want to watch wrestling, you go on YouTube and you'd never run out of just watching a match. What does it mean? See, what Tony needs to do, he needs to get a story and stay on the story. I did see the Samoa Joe and the Hook match. Wasn't a bad match, but I don't think they ended it right. I would have brought Taz in there. I'd have had him lay out the kid. I'd have had him lay out Taz, gurney the kid up. But in Savannah, didn't he have them on the first of the show?
Yeah, he had him on the first segment. Samoa Joe starts speaking. Hook comes out. They have a brief exchange, handshake, and Hook says, you've not seen the last of me. Security tries to remove Hook, and then Hook gets rid of security, and that's it. So they've just drawn a line under that story. Samoa Joe has now got two potential number one contenders, Adam Page and Swerve Strickland.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I watched the entire Dynamite thing, and it was just cold.
Does either one of them, like, excite you?
No. Swerve Strickland more than Adam Page, but not massively, no.
So I've tried to watch the show, and I tried to be as lenient on AEW as I can. But, hey, if it's boring, it's boring. I mean, if you got to sit there and look for reasons why it's good. Now, remember, we talked about Punk and we talked about Cody. You don't got to talk about them because you can feel it. And they took their time. I mean, I think Tony needs to sit down, reassess what he's got. And the Hook, the Hook kid, I think he's got something with him. But you just can't run through him. You got to take your time. Tell the story. It takes time. See, but what it is when these territories go down like this, now I've been around a bunch of them. The business goes down, but yet they don't want to take their time to build a story. And it's called, for a reason, a hot shot. You start hot shotting it, and it may bring it up a week, and that's about it. So if you just take your time, think this angle out. And like you said, when I would do an interview, I would talk to people to where they understood me. I think Tony's missing that. Tony Khan is missing that. I think he's trying to impress the critics more than he's trying to impress the fans, which don't give a shit about critics anyway. They just know what they like. And if he had a hell of a product, they would come. He would be drawing more than 2,200 people because the interest is there. I think Tony has too much on his plate. He's trying to book too much. I don't know. I've heard nobody else's name that is helping him that I think has a history of booking. Somebody asked me, why don't you go and help him? Well, first of all, I'm not interested in it. Second of all, he hasn't asked. But I don't think I don't think I would be interested in doing it anyway.
If you did do it, if he called you and said, can you just do you can stay at home, email in your suggestions, give me a report, essentially. Do you think he'd listen?
Well, he might listen.
Or do you think he'd implement what he'd said?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't need me to tell him what to do. I think he just needs to get him about 10 good or 12 good guys and tell everything around them. I think he has too many talents under contract. He's trying to use them, and I think he could use the girls a little bit better. The best thing he has in the girls is that Toni Storm, and she is very, very interesting. We talked about her earlier. But you can do so much with her because she's such a unique character. I don't know who came up with that idea. I think she did because she's probably a fan of it. But it works. It works well. But I don't know why they don't use that to help the other girls get over. At one time, I thought their group of girls, let me go back to WWE, under the Vince regime, I think AEW girls were over the WWE girls.
They probably would.
Because the way they were using them. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Hey, I've tried to kill this business for 50 years. Hey, this could be my chance to do it. Well, I could get a job with AEW and kill them. Just completely kill them. And hey, I could have a match. And don't put anybody out there. You know what I'd have? The Invisible Men wrestling each other and just call it and have just sound effects. Boom, boom. Oh, what a backdrop. Oh, a good arm drag, drop kick. Oh, he moved. So you're, and all of a sudden, ding, 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 the match is over. How'd you like that, Finney?
I quite like that.
But I could actually, like I said, we've tried to kill it for 50 years, can't do it. I wonder, would that kill it? What do you think? What do you think the rating would be? Or turn the lights out. You could do that too.
Or just hear like Matt.
Yeah, boom, okay. Boom, yeah, and you hear some commentary. So
we're going to get to the production of AEW in a minute. I've made some notes on it and see how it compares with yours. Before we do that, I want to get to the promotion of shows for AEW. So we're going back on tickets here. So as I say, they're selling around 2,000 tickets or 2,000 and a bit tickets for TV shows at the TV tapings, and this is Dynamite as well. And from what I can tell and what people have said, actual promotion of the live events, aside from on Twitter, let's say, and they'd only announce matches a couple of days beforehand. Actual promotion, like locally, getting guys out there, saying it on the radio. I know that's old-fashioned, but, doing interviews, doing press, something like that, just isn't happening. So for Dynamite in Savannah, Georgia, yesterday, the sum total of local advertising they did was they sent Darby Allin out a day before, so on Tuesday, to do some local interviews. That was the sum total of their local advertising.
That's it?
That was it. And that isn't an isolated incident. That's happened many times where, so many fans go on the internet or, air their opinions, and they say, I would have gone to a show, but I didn't even know it was happening. Or I knew it was happening too late. And, people have got families. People have got to plan for these things. And the average age of somebody who watches AEW is in their 40s. So they're going to have, for the most part, probably kids, and you can't just swan off. You've got to make a plan in advance for this kind of thing. And Sting's a good example. Every single place that Sting goes to now is the last time he's ever going to wrestle or appear in this arena. And they haven't done a Sting retirement tour. They don't advertise it as this is the last time you'll see Sting in California or Savannah, Georgia, or wherever it may be. Sting just turns up. So they've got something they could advertise, and then they don't. Another thing is...
Okay, in Savannah, was Sting there?
Yes. And guess what he did?
What?
He did a promo. And he said about 5 words and they left. Darby Allin did all the talking. He also painted in his hairline with his face paint, which is quite weird.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, if AEW does promote matches in advance, they're nearly always the undercard matches. They don't say, see this star, see Kenny Omega here, see Bryan Danielson here, Samoa Joe will be here. For the most part, they're advertising the undercard stuff. If they do advertise,
that's all they got.
Yeah.
Their top guys are all hurt or out. Omega's hurt, right?
Yeah.
Danielson's hurt, right?
He's still wrestling, though. He's back wrestling.
And who else is not there?
Well, Sting's going to be retired. Oh, who else? There was quite a few of them, and they've all left my head. But there was a few.
See, I don't know who AEW has any heat on whatsoever. They're trying to make this Wardlow, is it Wardlow? Or is it Wardlow a killer? But he's too inexperienced. How long has he been in the business?
A few years.
And they've already seen the killers. And he's not I don't think he's getting over anyway.
2014, he debuted.
Well, he hadn't learned a lot in 10 years.
Now, as I say, I watched all of Dynamite. I was doing script writing as well, so I wasn't paying too much attention to it. But what do you think? Let's talk purely from a production standpoint. Forget like the stories and booking and all that kind of thing.
Horrible. Less than horrible.
Tell me.
Well, they go in the back and they do this interview, and I've timed them. Sometimes they're like 47 seconds. For what reason? They keep it under a minute. Well, between the announcer saying what the premise of the interview is, or question the interviewee about something going on, a match coming up, well, she'll take 15 or 20 seconds, which leaves zero time for the wrestler to say anything. But even before that, you notice how badly lit it is, how amateurish it actually looks. I've seen better stuff on Home and Garden. I mean, they light it up better. But see, anytime you have a TV involved, it's all lighting. You got to light it up unless you have a reason for it to be dark, which they have no reason. But it's just, they have, to me, when they have interviews, they have no direction. I don't know who's doing these interviews. I don't know who's in charge of them, but it's just a cluster. And actually, they end up looking worse off than if they had no interview at all. or just have the interviewer just out there talking about herself and throwing a font. They don't even show the fonts. Oh, come, you know how they used to do. I remember Atlanta, Georgia they would promo that card 6 times during an hour show. Memphis is the same way. Coming this Monday night, you knew the matches were on Monday night at 8 o'clock, and the main event, Jerry the King Lawler versus blah, 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 and some kind of match, a lumberjack match here, and another match, a stipulation match, and a no DQ. And they go all the way down the card, be there, money. Well, they made it sound exciting. They don't even make this sound exciting. It's like, well, yeah, we're going to be in Savannah and blah, blah, blah. Get your tickets here and this, that, and other, and bye. We're gone.
But they won't tell you who's there for the most part. That's the thing. You see, you just said, Jerry the King Lawler will be facing so-and-so in the main event. But with AEW, it's like, AEW's going to be in wherever it's going to be. Tickets.
At whatever time.
At whatever time. And it's vague. They don't tell you who's going to be there.
Yeah. And ringside, they don't even tell you what the ticket prices are or nothing, or where to call or where to buy them or anything. I don't understand that. They need to take promotion or promoting 101. You know, if you're going to promote something, promote it. Don't just say we're going to be in Savannah and not where. I don't know. They could use some help, but see, it's not up to me to help them. They have to help themselves. They have to actually seek help. How could this show be better? And then again, I don't know. I mean, Tony can't do everything. He's trying to book, but he's trying to book how many shows?
3 a week, not
3
including
different shows and a pay-per-view, all within a month. So that leaves him 3 times 4, 12 shows in a pay-per-view. He's trying to book. Can't do it and make them all worthy. Booking is harder than what it seems. Now, somebody can say, oh, well, Dutch, you can sit back and say, this needs to be done, and this needs to be done, this needs to be done. Yeah, well, I can. But until it's done, funny, we don't knock WWE because their show is good. I mean, they actually make you watch their show. And look at the lighting that WWE has. You know how much it costs?
Wonderful, the lighting there.
No kidding. You know what it costs for that center thing over the ring? I mean, they go in 2 days earlier and put that up. That's just not thrown up day of the show. This is 10, 15 years ago. It was $60,000 to do it then. It's probably double that or triple that now. You know, when I don't know, it's just when some of those interviews they do backstage look like it's done by a 10th grader with just a hand camera.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm gonna bring that up right now. The arena itself looks like it's lit up with a monk's candle. Like, it's so black. It's so dark. I'll get to the backstage thing quickly, right? I've got a light here, as I showed you beforehand, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a number on there that it's 3,900. It's actually quite. Hang on, I can make it warmer. I can make it cooler. So anyway, it's the temperature of the light, right? AEW's is so cold. It's too blue. So you've got black. Everyone's skin tone is too blue, so it looks cold. You've got an, cavernous, echoey, because there's not enough people in the arena. So when they make noise, it sounds like they're making noise in a church. So you're just getting that reverb from the audio. It just sounds, it looks cold and empty in the arena. But in the backstage, they've got the purpose-built, interview area where it looks fine. And Renee Paquette's interviewed Orange Cassidy yesterday on Dynamite, as we record this. But then, for some reason, she does at least 2 interviews in a hallway. And it's like, well, hang on. Renee had to move from the nice, warm-looking backstage area to do interview Orange Cassidy to then do a freezing, cold-looking interview lit by, a phone torch to interview Adam Page. I was like, why did you move to make it look worse when you should have just stayed where you were and it will look fine?
I don't know who does their production. I don't know. I'm sure it's one of those trucks you just pull in, take the cameras off, take the lights off, and put it up. See, the ring is lit pretty well, but right outside the ring, it goes dark. Maybe you can see the first row or 2 or 3 rows, and that's it. So, see, and that makes me think, I don't know how Warner Brothers wants to take a show like that and pay them any type of money comparable to what WWE got. See what I mean?
Yeah.
They look at that. That's their business. And if that show looks bad, they look bad. So we'll see where it leads. I mean, and I'm not saying this. I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm just blasting them for no reason. Watch the show. I'm actually pleading to the people, fan, watch AEW and just see if you don't agree with me. Let alone, I mean, the matches don't even, they don't hold me. I mean, and I'm saying just the quality of the show won't, I mean, just the way it looks won't hold you either. But I'm not talking here just to hear myself talk. I want him to improve that, because even TNA was well lit. Now, we went to Universal and we had a regular building where we could build into that. And I'm traveling from arena to arena to arena. Very, very difficult, because every arena is different. And you ought to hear those guys on the truck say, oh, I hate to come this place because they don't have this and they don't have that. And we got to go over there to do this. But if you're in the same building every week, you know it. See, TNA had a regular building on the Universal lot that we had studio, I think we had Studio 4 maybe. But that's where we did TV, every 2 weeks. And you could go to the show. If you went to Universal, you didn't have to buy a ticket to come in. It was like, I think we did it on a Tuesday nights or a Wednesday night. I think we did 2 nights. I think it's been so long, but the people could just walk right off the street in Universal. You could walk right up and go in and have a seat. A lot of times, I think it would seat like 1,000 people. And I've seen an overflow a lot of times, but you couldn't tell them when to leave. I mean, they could get up and they could leave at any time. Like if you have this special match coming up and it's getting late, and they want to go ride the Ferris wheel, they just get up and leave. So they might leave a big spot right in the middle of the audience that you'd have to fill in real quick.
That's why you had to charge them to leave.
Well, we made more money that way. let them in free, and then charge them to let them go. You held them hostage, and the longer they stayed, the more it cost them to get out. See, there's some kind of genius around that thinking.
Now, we're not talking about the matches themselves or the booking really about this, but I want to make mention of one more thing. So I watched Dynamite yesterday.
Yep.
The main event was Adam Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki. So big name in New Japan. But it, as far as I can tell, was a cold match. And so, say last week, they built up in the show itself why it was important that Hook was wrestling Samoa Joe for the world title. Yes. And then they were treating the show, the commentators were, like it was an audition for new viewers. They were telling me why so-and-so didn't like so-and-so. They were giving everyone's name, and they did a good job. This week, I don't think they impressed upon me why it was an important match or a big match that Adam Copeland, the former Edge, was wrestling Minoru Suzuki. Because I had no idea. I watched it. I had no idea why they were wrestling, what the motivations were. I didn't get the reason why it was a big main event. It was just a match.
After it was over, you still didn't have the answer.
No.
So it was just a match.
Yeah.
So I don't get it either. I mean, they act as though people have been following the show. I mean, the Japanese wrestlers, you have to introduce them because you need to treat every show like you have new viewers. And if you say the same thing over and over, well, there's a reason for that. So you had no introductory video of this guy.
I had a bit of a bad feed, had to skip here and there to get through it, but as far as I could tell, there was no information on who Minoru Suzuki was. I can't say his first name. Not at all for me.
Who is he?
He's a guy who looks like he's got alopecia. He's you'd recognise his head. But yeah, he's one of the big wrestlers in New Japan, has been for years.
But you had to figure that out yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Here's the thing. Tony Khan, right, not only does he expect you to follow all the AEW shows to catch up with it, he also expects you to follow AAA and CMLL and New Japan. He books, well, it's not even booking, it's just matchmaking, as you say.
Yes.
He put two people together and expected you to make your own storyline and give you a reason to care about it.
Well, and what do you get from that?
Nothing. Especially because I knew Adam Copeland.
And what's he getting from that? Nothing.
His own personal jollies, I imagine, because he's seen these two people wrestle that he wanted to see wrestle.
Well, I got this from not reading, but hearing Dave Meltzer and all these other guys. He's a rich kid who's playing with live dolls. He's lining them up. He's doing his own storylines that only he understands, I guess. And he's getting exactly what he's putting into it because nobody understands it. I don't understand it, and I'm trying to understand it. I want him to do well because he's paying good money from what I hear. So if you can get on that payroll, you don't got to really do nothing. If you suggest something, he may take it or he may not. But he's probably been given 1,000 angles to do. But I think he's covered up with that. But when you have guys like Cesaro, or what's his name now, Claudio Castagnoli or whatever. What's his name?
Castagnoli, near enough.
Yeah. And he had CM Punk, he had Cody Rhodes, but he didn't burn the buildings down with them. So, and they've had some great houses. So the guys that he has over, you might see this guy here 1 week. Let's say Eddie Kingston. You see Eddie Kingston once a month. Maybe. Because if you're going to push somebody, let's push him. Let's have him out there at least in a month. Have him out there at least 3 times, 3 out of the 4 weeks. And then he only misses a week. Eddie Kingston, you may see him this week, and you may not see him again for 3 weeks. But at least they know who he is. And there's another guy who does a really good interview. Because that's the way he talks, and you understand what he's saying, and he's straightforward. And I think they could get him over. And he's not that great a worker, but what he does, you believe. And isn't that the bottom line we're trying to get at?
Absolutely.
I like Eddie. So I think for what he does, he's believable. So
I'll shut this down with 2 more points for you to react to. At least twice in the broadcast on Dynamite, they say, we've not seen this guy for a while.
There's a reason for that.
Yeah, you've not seen him for a while. Right.
They're telling the truth.
But it's like, isn't that a problem? You've not seen this guy for a while.
Absolutely.
And it was the Acclaimed. They're the Trios champions with Billy Gunn. Yeah. And it's like, well, we've not seen you for a month.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good.
I don't. He goes against the cardinal rules of wrestling. If you want to get somebody over, you got to put them out there and you got to put them over. You got to put them. This is why I miss actually. You can't do it these days, but like Samoa Joe beat Hook last week, almost like a jobber match. But he beat him. And people were looking forward to it. Wasn't a bad match. But that's the way jobber matches used to be. So you wanted your okay. If you were put out in one of those matches, you wanted the guy that you wanted him to be an aggressive son of a bitch. You want him to come and bring it to you. So when you finally got your hand raised after 2 minutes or whatever it was, it looked like you beat somebody that wanted to fight you, but you beat them. See, jobber matches where you go out there and you just beat the guy up and he don't do nothing, it actually hurts everybody. It hurts actually the guy that's winning. It hurts him. And the guy that's losing don't matter for him because he ain't coming back anyway, I hope. But see, the Hook match versus Samoa Joe last week was almost like a jobber match 20 years ago. So, and I thought they booked that all wrong because, well, I think they didn't book it all wrong. I think they could have booked it better. So did I tell you my finish for it was?
Yeah, Taz and
he beats up the kid, goes back to beat up the kid more, and here comes Taz. Hey, man, that's my kid. And said, okay, go check on him. When he turns back, Joe just rips him up and puts him in the same hole, leaves both of them laying. And then some people come in, like Swerve and knock the Hangman Page, and he leaves. But I would take the kid out on a gurney, on a stretcher. That's the last thing we see of him. So now you got to and keep playing that back and playing that back and playing that back.
Do you remember? Right, I know you weren't in WWF at this time, but and I'll finish with my final point in a second. Is why everyone remembers, apart from the fact that it was silly, is that everyone remembers why the thing where Papa Shango cursed the Ultimate Warrior and then he puked up green barf all over in the backstage. Do you know why people remember that? It's because they replayed that on every single show for 6 weeks straight.
See, you remember it. If you want them to remember it, you got to keep reminding. Listen, we're not teaching quantum physics here. We're not teaching that. We're teaching that, hey, something's going to happen here. Even if they say nothing's booked, you still, by the very fact that they're showing it back and back and back, well, they're priming your brain to expect something. And he asked Taz for a match. Taz said, I hadn't had a match in years, man. I hadn't had a match. But by God, I will fight you. And have him go in there against Taz and beat the living crap out of him, put him out, then have Hook come in and do something.
You've got something against Taz, haven't you? You just want to see Taz beaten up.
No, but Taz could be. He's the guy's father, right?
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah. No, I'm just joking with you.
And when you involve family, and Taz tells him, don't you come in. And when Taz tells him on an interview, don't come in, what's that telling the fans? He's coming in. Mm-hmm. So he comes in but anyway, there's a lot of ways to do it. And I think they got a pay-per-view or two that would do pretty well with Hook and Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe needs an opponent. Mm-hmm. And it would help a little Hook to climb that ladder. And if he don't make it then, now he's got a story to tell too. Now he goes back and you follow him training. And in about 6 months, you lay something on him. Now he's earned it. So he's paid his dues. He's paid his respects. So now I'm where I want to be. And then he tells his dad, leave me alone. You've done enough. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you could tell the story, but I think they could have told it a lot better. A lot, not better, but deeper. Deeper is what I'm going for.
No, are we all?
Stop it. I got that.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to end it on this.
I'm telling you, talking about Hulk Hogan and
Heather Clem.
Yeah.
The wife.
I got it.
The last thing I'm going to say, every match had something in common last night as we record this. Do you want to know what it was?
Boring.
There was ups and downs with different matches, but I correctly predicted every single winner. And you know why? Because you would have to be a complete dribbling moron to not figure out who's going to win and who was going to lose. You might as well have just read the spoilers beforehand.
Okay, do you have that same... Can you tell who's going to win a WWE match?
I'm sure for quite a few matches you do, but there's always the mid-card matches that you never know. I mean, there's loads of matches that you can't quite tell, but in this Dynamite, every single person, it would have made no sense for the person to win to lose.
Okay, let's take the angle with who was the Sami Zayn.
Mm-hmm.
They took Sami Zayn from being just a straight up enhancement talent, a regular enhancement talent. They took him to being a legitimate contender for the world's heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
And how long did it take them?
Not long.
It took them, huh?
Not long. He was just somewhere in the mid-card.
Yeah, but it took them to get him up there. Remember, even doing when he was with the Bloodline, he was still an enhancement talent. He was just there. And everybody expected something to happen with him. And finally, when it happened, they bought it. And they made him a legitimate contender for Roman Reigns' title. I can't believe that when that happened, and he beat Sammy, and you had all the internet guys like Alvarez and all those guys and Meltzer saying, "Oh, what a great time to put it on Sami Zayn." And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it would have been it would have blown the roof off the building. I'm not doubting that. But what are you going to do on Raw next week? All of a sudden, you're going to go out and tell everybody who didn't see that match, by the way, that Sami Zayn's the new champion. And people go, what?
But that's not the point, though. The point is that they built a guy who was in the mid-card to a main event, and a lot of people thought he was going to win. Intrigue. You didn't know what was going to happen in the match. Whether he won or not, you didn't know. Or you didn't have a great idea who would win or not.
And a lot of people... But okay, say he wins, and then you're sitting there, and you weren't in Montreal, and all of a sudden he comes out as the champion. Now the next thing you're thinking, and they could have kept the story going, but it loses something because Roman Reigns is not the exalted one. Now it's Sami Zayn. Now you could have done something, but it's not the same. You can't spend 3 years building a guy and then take it off him for a talent. And Sami Zayn is tremendous talent. He has a tremendous ability. But if you're thinking like a fan, here's Roman, he's all jacked up, and Sami looks like he hadn't walked by a gym in 7 years. He doesn't drink health drinks. He drinks beer or whatever he drinks. But you throw all that away. Now you got to go back to the drawing board. And they got Roman Reigns, and it took them about a year to get Roman as a heel, because the people did not buy him as a heel because they bought him still as a babyface, as a member of the Shield.
Yeah. Well, who just overcame cancer at that point as well.
Right, and then he just overcame cancer. So you got to feel, well, this guy's a battler. This guy's a warrior. I like him. I like his spirit. But all of a sudden now you want us to boo him? Took them a while to get him there, but they did, and they did it well. So, and I've talked for years and years and years, WWE has no bench strength. That's true a year ago.
Yeah.
Not now.
It's the strongest it's been since maybe the 80s or like 2002. They've got so many potential main eventers there.
Right, and you go down that bench and, I know him, and then all these guys now can be interjected in anything they got and bought. Even Drew. Now they got Drew. He's legitimate. Mm. But I think the sleeping giant amongst all of them is Gunther. Mm. Gunther is the guy. Because you remember a guy named Johnny Valentine?
Yeah.
I think he's the second coming of Johnny Valentine. Talks good, and he doesn't do all these silly spots. He just beats the crap out of people, and the people can buy that. So,
based on all that, I just wanted to finish on this. We've got MJF is injured, Adam Cole is injured. I forgot that Jamie Hayter's injured. Juice Robinson is injured. Kenny Omega, I can't remember if I mentioned him. Kyle O'Reilly still on the injured list for like a year probably. Don't know who that guy is. Pac, who was barely there anyway. Ray Phoenix, Sammy Guevara, loads of people injured at the moment in AEW. So everything's. But we're saying this not because we hate AEW. It's because these are easy fixes. A lot of these things, and for some with unlimited money. Like just the lighting is such an easy fix. Some extra promotion locally is an easy fix. All it takes is a bit of foresight and probably some extra help, which is desperately needed, I think. But from what I've been told by people, Tony wants to do everything, and you just can't do everything.
Well, I salute him for doing that because he's not a stranger to hard work. I think he needs some sleep. Sometimes you see Tony, and this is what this is also what I've noticed about him. His eyes are like this all the time, and he's looking around.
He doesn't hallucinating from lack of sleep.
Something. But anyway, I've met Tony one time. I met him in Jacksonville when WWE was in town. It was a Salute to the Troops show. He was there. And nice guy. And I didn't know at the time that he was thinking about starting a promotion. But I remember two guys who talked to him extensively that night. Guess who they were?
Triple H.
No,
go on. I'm sure you've told me, but I can't remember.
Cody.
Uh-huh.
And Arn Anderson.
Huh?
So, and they both ended up with the AEW. But they were talking shop, but more power to them.
Yeah.